everybody. I'm Peter, and I'm just a child with no experience of the galaxy. And I could really use him on this side of the pig. He's Mike.
And together we are Rebels, the podcast where we explore the Star Wars expanded universe through an episode-by-episode deep dive into the animated series Star Wars Rebels.
Our guest today is an author and a cartoonist, frequent guest on Star Wars Minute. His name is Tony Consiglio. Tony, how you doing?
Hello, Rebels Podcast fans.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. I have a question for you guys. Like, if I say hi, Peter and Michael, like, do you guys get upset if I, bill one over the other? If I say Michael first or Peter, or
yeah, you always need to say my name first. That's why I speak first in the podcast.
Yeah, I let him go.
Beauty before brains, right?
All right, perfect.
So thanks again for being here. We like to just ask people, like, are you... Actually, this is the first time I've ever done it, and it feels weird. I'm going to edit this out. So I'm just going to assume you're a Star Wars fan. I don't know what to ask you.
I am a Star Wars fan, yes.
Okay.
Whoa.
Oh, cool.
Before we get started, please just subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app and leave us a review on iTunes. It helps a ton. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stupid social media crap just by searching Rebels Pod, or you can email the show at rebelsrebelspod@gmail.com with all your complaints.
Yeah.
And compliments.
All right. Mike, you ready?
I'm ready, Tony. Are you ready to get into this?
I certainly am.
Cool. This is Season 1, Episode 10, Idiot's Array. The wrong gamble with a new acquaintance forces the crew into transporting some unusual cargo.
Yep. So the episode starts off at old who's pit stop.
It's pronounced Joe.
I know it's okay. So it's spelled.
Don't you know how to say Joe?
Yes, I know how to say Joe, but it's spelled J-H-O.
Well, it's funny because when I looked at it and pronounced it, I pronounced it Yoho.
Yeah, right? That's what I just said.
I had no idea what I was like. Oh, I guess it's probably Joe, but knowing Star Wars is some weird pronunciation.
Well, that's like the other episode. A couple episodes back, they spelled dill pickles like D''L''P''Y''Y''K''L. And I was like, that's not dill pickle.
I don't see the problem here.
I don't know. I don't like it. But I love it. Okay, so the first shop at Old Joe, Old Joe's Pit Shop, is, you see, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I paused it because I saw two drunk Ugnaughts stumbling out of the bar carrying each other.
Oh, no, that is fantastic.
It's so great.
That's the first thing you see in this. It's not really a kid show, but I mean, it is a kid show, but...
They like to sneak those little naughty things in there.
It's pretty weird.
So they're at Old Joe's pit stop, and they need a job because they're out of fuel, they're out of money. We've heard this song and dance before. They need a job. So Joe, who's the Thorian behind the bar, he suggested that they talk to a mysterious stranger who's playing sabacc with Zeb.
This is a great lead-in.
Yeah. So we go to the table, and the mysterious stranger is playing with Zeb and Soklo, the Rodian, who we've met him before.
Oh, did we meet him?
Yeah.
Was he the guy who was selling fruit?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he's also an Imperial agent.
Oh, he's
an undercover snitch.
Oh, so this Rodian is a total snitch.
Yeah.
Rodians, man.
I know.
Why isn't there any positive images of Rodians in the universe?
I don't really know.
I was curious in that first scene, like, why exactly would Zeb play someone in the complete dark, especially like not know who it is?
I mean, yeah, Lando's kind of a central person Turn down the lights, really set the mood.
Set the mood. Like, is this someone actually there other than like hands and cards? Because you just see a silhouette in the beginning, right? And then he shows up.
Yeah, totally. Maybe at like Thursday nights at Old Joe's Pit Stop is like candlelight sabacc night, and they just turn the lights down low. It's a whole themed thing, and they do a slow dance afterward.
That is a bit weird. I didn't think about that.
I want to take a second and highlight how funny I found Chopper this entire episode.
I thought Chopper was amazing.
It's such good like physical
head
comedy.
The table in frustration.
It's so good.
That's the weirdest, again, I said this before, that's the weirdest thing to program into a droid. Like when you're frustrated, bang your head on the table.
That is a very strange thing for a droid.
Why program that? That seems destructive.
I know. I don't know. I've stopped trying to figure out reasons why. I can get why droids have pain and things like that.
But why program your droid to self-harm?
You got me on that one.
Well, if you're gonna have droids at pit stops, they definitely should teach them, or at least give him some kind of poker face, because he certainly was not.
No,
he was not
seriously.
In that. He was like,
I know. Also,
this is a pretty progressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's weird that Joe's pit stop allowed droids to come in, right?
Yeah.
Because at the Mos Eisley Cantina, and what's the name of that cantina? There's a name. I always forget it.
I didn't know it had a name.
No. In that new A Certain Point of View book, they name it, and I remember reading it and being like, that's weird.
It's called the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Sure.
You can't change my mind on that one.
In my head canon, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But they're letting droids into this place. Droids can't buy drinks or gamble.
Yeah.
But they're cool to be here. So progressive place. So applause to Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's letting in the droids. Maybe in Mos Eisley, the problem is that droids don't have a poker face. It might have caused a lot of trouble.
I feel like it's a stretch, but I like it.
Speaking of poker faces, I forgot the exact dialogue, but Zeb's like, he bets Chopper, which I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and he's like, I got a hand that I can't lose. And Kanan looks over his shoulder and is like, whoa, and gives him like cartoon eyes. Like, yeah, do it. Like if someone did that at the poker table, I would kill him.
That was bad.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that, that's really, this is definitely no Casino Royale. This is a different poker game.
Yep. So I looked up the rules of sabacc.
Ooh, good.
There's some pretty detailed ones, but basically what you need to know for this episode is the object of sabacc is to get a hand that totals 23, but it can only be beaten by an idiot's array, which is a 0, a 1, and a 2. So
3?
Sabacc is, well, you need 3 cards.
Okay, 0, 1.
A 0 and a 1 and a 2. Sabacc is the second best thing. Idiot's Array is the first thing. So Sabacc was first introduced in the script for Empire Strikes Back. I guess Cloud City is going to be more of like a casino, rocking and rolling situation, but it was cut out, and any mention of the game was just wiped from the books until some of the EU stuff. Yeah,
and in those original Marvel comics, I don't know if you read those 77 Marvel comics, there is a gambling like arena thing that looks exactly like Bespin.
Huh? No, I don't remember that.
Oh, I wish I remember what it was called. It was this big circular gambling arena. It was called maybe the Coliseum or something like that. I gotta look that up. It was weird.
Also, I don't know any insider knowledge of The Last Jedi, but they have announced Canto Bright. One of those two. That's one of the places that we've seen in the trailer, and that's a big casino planet.
Oh.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah.
Like a casino. I guess that makes sense. Why not? They're adults. They got to be entertained.
Yeah, why not?
They need to entertain themselves.
Yeah, this is going to come out after Last Jedi has been out, so it's going to be real interesting to see this. It's probably not even a casino planet. It's like a dump planet. Those idiots.
Interesting.
So, as I mentioned, Zeb is like, we got a hand that I can't lose with. And so he decides, he doesn't have any more money, so he decides to bet Chopper.
Which I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sure, why not?
Why not? And so when he bets Chopper, this guy comes out and is like, no, my friend. I have an idiot's array. And he comes out of the shadows, and it's our friend Lando Calrissian.
I win. Not so fast. It appears I have an idiot's array. Which makes you, well... And what does that make you? Name's Calrissian. Lando Calrissian. Now please, introduce me to my new droid.
It's something interesting about this. Two interesting things. First, it's cool that they use Lando's theme from Empire Strikes Back plays right when he emerges.
Yes, that's very cool.
And I love that they do that they use that same music. But what was weird when researching this is they said that Lando's signature move in sabacc is the Idiot's Array. But that's like saying my signature move in a game of 21 is getting 21. It's completely based on its chance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless Lando is always carrying sabacc cards with him, and he always has a 0, and he's changing them out. You know, he's.
Yeah. Zeb does say that he thinks he cheated, so maybe that's actually good insight.
That's how he gets people to work for him, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, if he was so good at getting sabaccs all the time or getting idiots arrays, then why do you lose the Millennium Falcon? Because he's not that good of a
He's
gambler.
up against
That's true,
Han
yes.
Solo.
Yeah.
We got two cheaters.
He did win a city. So I mean, I can't really fault him that much.
Which actually, okay, so I have to tell this story.
Okay.
Because I thought about, so Peter and I used to work together building pool tables for this guy, super cool guy, and he won.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he won his moving truck, like his huge moving truck that we use to move
The
pool
back of
tables
his
and build them.
business.
He won it in a game of pool. Or no, he won it in a game of poker. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He won the truck in a game of poker. And I remember thinking that was like the most badass thing I've ever heard.
Who does that in real life?
It is
Bets their
badass.
truck.
Yeah.
He won his truck, his moving truck in a game of poker.
That's awesome.
Which I think is so sick.
So I don't think we've mentioned this, but Lando is voiced by Billy D. Williams in this episode.
He's
Which I was actually kind of surprised with because I've seen him in some of the 40th anniversary stuff, and he doesn't seem like he's got the Lando swagger anymore, but he pulls it off in this episode.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just ageism that I'm.
Yeah, that's ageist.
Yeah.
I don't know. He seems like he's stoked to be back. He seems like, I feel like Billy D is like a dude who does like the fan circuit still a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I can't believe I never knew that his middle name actually was December. Did you know that?
Didn't know that.
Billy December Williams.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
You did know that?
December. Yeah, that's awesome.
Billy December Williams. He shortened it. Yeah. I don't know why you would shorten December.
I've mentioned this a couple of times, but sometimes I watch these episodes with my wife. And the other night we were watching this episode to prep, and in the shadows before you see Lando's face, you hear like the "well then, my friend" or something like that, and my wife audibly goes,
She can't.
"Yeah." Like, keep it in your pants.
Well, I mean, he does love the ladies.
I noticed also in this episode, I don't know if it was just maybe because Billy December Williams is just older in age, but he seemed like his swagger seemed a little slow, almost like I imagine like he took like a few glugs of like NyQuil before he actually went out and played the card game.
Colt 45. Wasn't that his thing? He was advertising.
Look at that. Maybe he's got a couple of Colt 45s under the table.
Yeah, it was a little sluggish. It definitely wasn't. It was nowhere near the Empire Strikes Back, which is A little sad.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he looked great. He was thin.
Yes. Very good physique.
Yeah. Good one.
He just wasn't mature yet. Let's give him that.
So we're heading back to the Ghost now after Zeb lost Chopper.
Yep.
In a game of chance to this mysterious stranger.
Yeah. Bad move on his part. Lose your astromech droid.
I like how he walks in and the first thing he says to Hera is, I can explain. Like, explain what? And I love when Mom Hera comes out.
She is so the mom.
And she pulls my favorite thing. Gareth Zeb Aurelios?
Yeah, funny story. You see, Lando and I were playing sabacc, and I kind of bet Chopper.
Gareth Zeb Aurelius, Chopper wasn't yours to bet.
Kanan said it was okay.
And you should know better. Chopper is a member of this crew.
Well, we should go. I need to pick up my cargo, and I don't want to keep my supplier waiting. Besides, if all goes well, there won't be anything for you good people to argue about.
Love that.
It's so good. So Lando returns to the ship with them and says he needs to get some things past the Imperial blockade of Lothal, and he will hire the crew to do that. And then once the mission is done, he will give back Chopper and pay them handsomely.
Yeah. He's a good guy. I don't know.
I find it strange. Like, why didn't they just stronghold him, like throw him out and be like, no, we're not doing that?
I know. I mean, you didn't get the full force of it if you're just watching this one episode, but they have a Jedi on board. I mean, he could have just laser sworded him.
Oh yeah, why not?
Just like, give me back my droid.
They're moralistic. They're not going to skirt ethics. They're above that.
Yeah. So when you first go on to the Ghost, you see Sabine is on this like green motorcycle thing. It looks like she's like riding it like she's a kid on a toy motorcycle. Like,
but why is she sitting on that?
I don't know, just to look like a cool guy. But that was originally meant for Kanan, and he was gonna like ride it around all the time like a cool BA. But they ditched it because I don't know. They thought it was stupid. So they just kind of put it in there as a little Easter egg to this plan that was ditched.
Yeah. I actually think I'm glad they ditched it because it is a little, I don't know. It's just like too reminiscent of like a real world motorcycle. And so I'm glad it's not in there.
He does have a cool goatee though. So I mean,
he does have a goatee.
It's made for a motorcycle.
It's like their stationary bike, they just have in the corner. Like,
yeah. Maybe we're misinterpreting. It's just exercise equipment. She was just working out.
That's their equivalent to a rowing boat.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, it's got cooler.
Yep.
So on the way to Lando's rendezvous, he's getting to know the crew, right? And this is where things start to get weird for me because he's flirting a little bit with Hera, but she kind of gives it back. And you can see that Kanan is irritated by it. But then he meets Sabine and recognizes her artwork, which this is so the lame dudes into like an art, a girl who's into arts, like thing.
You say that, but Sabine's like, oh yeah, like I love that guy. He's my biggest influence. And then she goes, you want to see more of my impressionistic pieces? Wink. Takes him back to her room. Go see some impressionistic.
Hey, I told you your stuff was good months ago.
Yeah, but you didn't know why.
Oh, milady, that's hardly fair. He's just a child with no experience of the galaxy.
I don't suppose you'd like to see my more impressionistic pieces.
I happen to be an impressionistic connoisseur. That means...
I know what it means. Hey, what does that mean?
A lot less than he thinks.
I don't like that guy.
It was so weird.
It must work.
And I tried to look up the artist too because I thought it'd be really fun. Jane Moore's protest
I did the same
paintings
thing
on Bith, and I couldn't find them.
I found it, and it's so boring. It's like he was a Bith person who painted protest paintings.
So Bith are the canteen
Yeah, like the
musicians, right?
yeah, like the flute player from the cantina with the big black bug eyes.
Which reminds me, I recently saw a shirt, which it was like a mashup between the Smiths and Star Wars, where it was the Smiths with Bith heads, and it's
dope.
Weird how many Smiths Star Wars mashup shirts I've seen. It's a weird intersection of culture.
It's like made for you.
It is. It's kind of made for me. There's also, because I do own a shirt that is Natalie Portman on the cover, like in her coffin at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and it says Queen is dead.
That's dope.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which I like.
So you made a note about this. Lando says that her work is even more stunning in its simplicity.
Total diss.
I know, right?
Total diss.
Awful.
I know, he's negging her.
Linda seems nice enough.
I'm telling you, I don't like that guy.
Sabine, I understand this is your work. Reminds me of Janier's protest paintings on Biff.
Janur of Bith is a major influence.
Well, your work is even more stunning in its simplicity.
Your work is even more stunning in its simplicity.
Yeah.
If someone said that to me, I'd be, I don't know. Also, what is he drinking? Did anyone else notice that he's holding like a cup of sleepy time tea?
It's just hot Colt 45.
Yeah.
Oh,
Warm beer. That's how he rolls. That's the grossest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, so because of all of his smooth talking, Kanan, Ezra, and Zeb all don't like Lando.
Seems fair.
Yeah, I wouldn't like him either. I actually didn't like him that much when my wife let out that gasp, so I feel.
All right, so we're off to the Merchant One ship, where this new character, as Morgan, lives. And the Ghost rendezvous with the freighter Merchant One. So Kanan, Hera, and Lando are escorted to the ship's owner, who we meet. He's the Jablogian slaver as Morgan.
Merchant One, this is Calrissian, requesting permission to dock.
You have the goods?
Always.
Permission granted.
Yeah, which I think is kind of just a gross name for a species.
Jablogian?
Jablogian. Also, so as Morgan is based on early concept art of Jabba the Hutt that was made by Ralph McQuarrie.
So that's what Jabba was supposed to look like originally. Actually, Jabba's gone through like 2 or 3 iterations.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be like a fat Scottish guy?
yeah.
And then he was supposed to be like a slender green guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because that's where that whole scene with Han Solo and the 1997 re-releases comes from, where Han Solo walks around Jabba.
Yeah,
No, so I know what you're talking about. I think in the script or in the book, he's described as like a slender green alien thing, right?
almost Greedo looking.
But in that scene, he's like just a fat Scottish dude, right?
Oh.
It's really weird too, because Han circles him, and obviously he had to do something because he goes over his tail. But he says, "Oh, you're an amazing human being." And when he said "amazing human being," I'm like, okay, was he a human being? Was he supposed to be a human being? Maybe.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't want to go too much far down this tangent because we like to celebrate Star Wars here, but I remember specifically getting the special editions. They would show before they're out in theaters. So that was the first time I ever saw Star Wars in theaters. I was so excited, and I would watch on 60 Minutes. They did a big thing, and George Lucas was just raving about that scene. He was like, "You won't believe what we did with Jabba the Hutt's tail. We put him in this scene, and then you see Han Solo goes back there, but there's a tail, so we digitally made him hop up and look like he's stepping on Jabba's tail," and he was so proud of himself.
Oh wow!
It's so, in retrospect, it just makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Because it looks like I did it on Microsoft Paint.
No, totally.
Exactly. It looks terrible. It does.
It looks terrible, and it's so against Jabba the Hutt's character. Really, Jabba's gonna be cool with this dude just stepping on your tail. He's like a vile gangster that likes to feed people to a rancor. I don't know. Sorry, that's a tangent. I don't like hating.
Okay, so I think as Morgan, actually, when I saw him, I think he looks exactly like the Great Goblin from The Hobbit, which are other movies that I really don't like. But do you remember The Great Goblin and The Hobbit?
I don't really remember it. I saw that movie once and then kind of forgot it.
It's forgettable.
Yeah.
Freaking amazing books, awful movie. He looks exactly like The Great Goblin.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know. So just,
He also
watch it.
very disgustingly eats fruit. I don't know why.
What is wrong? Why is he like then he's spitting it out too?
Yeah.
And he's choosing like especially slimy fruit. Like you could just eat like some peanuts or something. It's fine.
I think it's supposed to be reminiscent of when we actually first see Jabba in his palace eating those frogs.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's what it's kind of trying to replicate, right? Is this like repulsion of this character, which I don't know, I got. So
yeah, he was very repulsive, definitely.
So at this point, Lando's genius plan is uncovered that none of the crew was in on beforehand.
Which seems like a bad idea.
He sells Hera into slavery in return for this crate.
I have what you ordered. What do you have to offer in return?
Her name is Hera.
What?
Which is a real D move.
Yeah.
The best part about it too is evidently Hera is so pissed at Kanan for losing Chopper that she's like, I don't care. I'll go into slavery. We made a deal. A deal's a deal. So fine. I'm a slave now.
To be fair to Lando, he did give her the heads up.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
So, being sold into slavery is okay.
Okay. Cool.
She's trying to defend it.
Yeah.
It's funny when I was listening to while watching and listening to it, as Morgan sounded so familiar to me, and it's James Hong. It's the guy from Big Trouble in Little China and all those other
Blade Runner.
That's totally where it is.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought.
I was
really surprised when I saw it too.
A girl with green eyes to satisfy King Dai. A girl brave enough to embrace the naked blade. And when I find her, I will marry her.
Never!
And King Dai will be happy and my curse will be lifted.
You can go off and rule the universe from beyond the grave.
Indeed!
Or check into a psycho ward, whichever comes first, huh?
Oh, I love Big Trouble in Little China. It actually played at the theater in Chinatown in San Francisco not too long ago. They do this big event for that.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool.
Yeah. I didn't get it yet. Oh, that was bugging me. All right, so we're back on the Ghost. And Kanan and Lando, while they're there, they get back there with this crate, right, that they've traded Hera for.
Traded a person for a crate.
And Lando tells Sabine that Hera is following the plan, right, trying to calm everyone down. And Kanan says that he doesn't know of any plan.
Yeah. I just think I remember specifically watching this episode when it aired on TV and being super bummed on it. But watching it now, kind of binging it for this podcast, I love it. And I think the dialogue is really funny, actually. This dialogue's great. I love goofy. That Sabine just drags Kanan, just like, having a great day. First you lose Chopper, then you lose Hera. Just like drags him. And I think Rebels is just made for binging, because these little standalone episodes are bad on its own in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But when you watch it in the scheme of everything, you can notice like some of the really cool, charming stuff.
No, I totally agree. I think, and this episode feels like something of a reprieve from how serious the last few episodes have been, because I love the episodes where there's some serious development of like canonical characters we know and love. But this episode definitely is like a standalone kind of step to the side. Let's get a little lighthearted. Mm-hmm. And after like 3 or 4 episodes of some more serious stuff, I think this is like an attempt of appeasing younger audience and, dialing back a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. And yeah, I think it's fun.
Yeah. Speaking of some other dialogue I like, they're back on the freighter, and Hera is now a slave to As Morgan, but she escapes by smashing him in the face with a tray of fruit.
Oh, yeah. When I saw that, I was like, well, they look like they're wearing metal helmets. You tell me that a fruit tray is strong, well, I mean, I'm sure she's strong also, but
yeah, it's a space fruit tray. It's different than the fruit trays we use.
True.
But I love that. So she smashes him in the face. There's guards outside, and she kind of strolls out and is like, oh, he needs some time by himself or whatever. And then her and the guard are like leading her back to her slave quarter or something. And off screen, she smashes him in the face. And then she just walks away and nonchalantly is like, that was a useful tray.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's the hitting the guard. As Morgan looked like he was made of like pretty much marshmallow anyway, so I imagine that would have hurt either way. But his guard had a helmet on. You tell me that if a fruit tray is going to knock you out and you're wearing those helmets, why bother wearing the helmet?
It's probably made out of the same thing that Stormtrooper armor is made out of. Doesn't really do it. If anything, it probably hurts him more.
It hurts him worse.
Yeah.
So this is where the episode starts to get a little serious, a little weird for me, because as Morgan wakes up
after the slavery.
Well, so I'm cool with the slavery, but as Morgan wakes up and he wants to know where he wants to get his property back.
Yeah.
and that's where it starts to get a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Is where Hera is now just being called property. I don't know. That choice of word is just a little...
There's a lot of questionable issues in this because eventually we look into that crate and there's a pig in there.
Yes.
So Hera's life is worth a pig, evidently. Well, so that's one thing.
It's a special pig.
Secondly, as Morgan evidently goes through the Imperial blockade, walks like a couple miles and does a big laser fight at the end of this episode where people presumably died so he can get his property back. He really loves slaves.
What's the problem here? Still waiting for the issue.
Here's another thing I like. So Hera shoots out of the escape pod and they scoop her up onto the Ghost. And when they're about to get her, Sabine like gets Lando and they go back together and she goes, we'll go prep the airlock. Wink. Just like when they're going to look at their impressionist painting. Like, oh, we're prepping the airlock. Don't go to my room. I'm prepping the airlock.
Another weird moment. Because, yeah. All right. So Hera hits Lando
right in the Jogans.
hits Lando right in the Jogans, and then demands to see what's in the crate. Yep. And then we get the big crate reveal. So before Lando can show Hera what's in the crate, Zeb and Ezra decide to take a peek. They're in there, and then bam, out pops what Hera was traded for: a puffer pig. And a quick note about the puffer pig. I was doing some research on them, and everything that you need to know is right there in this episode.
Are they a pig that puff?
They're exactly that. But here's what was interesting about them, is that they said they're non-sentient mammals. Okay.
Oh.
So sentient means you have the ability to feel and think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this pig is a non-sentient mammal. All mammals on Earth are sentient.
Is that the case?
Yeah.
Earth pigs are considered sentient?
Yeah, your dog is sentient. A pig is sentient. Anything that, I mean, there's varying levels of sophistication, right? With
maybe he's more puffer than pig.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know. At least that's what I'm arguing.
So Tony, welcome to the PETA podcast. We tricked you. Meat is murder.
No, I'm just wondering. I mean, all animals can feel. So this puffer pig can't feel? Exactly.
I don't know. I think they're just. I know what you mean, but I think they're just making a distinction between creatures like Wookiees and like Greedos and Ithorians that can like converse and are citizens of the Galactic Empire, opposed to like pigs and dogs and loath rats that are
go vegan. Bike life.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that was it. We talked about this, that the Empire hated Wookiees so much that they actually classified Wookiees as non-sentient. So that's why Wookiees are slaves in the Empire, because they're treated just like a puffer pig.
And they even considered eating them because they had so many slaves at that point.
That would be great if under all that fur they only weigh like 40 pounds. They're just like skin and bones.
Maybe that's a lesson about the puffer pig. Maybe a puffer pig is just as sentient as a Wookiee, and we're just speciesist.
I'll tell you, for a non-sentient, that pig went up a ladder better than a four-legged, like a arms and legs being, I guess. That thing went straight up the ladder. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's sentient. Thank you.
You've made your point.
You have to be sentient if you could go up a ladder, at least, right?
I think that's in the definition. Must be able to go up a ladder.
Climb a ladder.
All right, so we got the puffer pig. So now we're getting to the blockade, which the ghost, it's able to modify its signature. It's why it's called the ghost. It's able to hide what it is and get through blockades. But the signature modulator still hasn't been fixed.
Yeah, I think we skipped over this. I really so it was broken.
Yeah.
And Kanan orders Chopper to go fix it.
Yeah.
And Chopper is, and Hera goes, he says he doesn't have to do it because he's not part of the crew anymore. She's so sassy in this. I love it. And she lets him not do it. It's like, fine, we just have a broken ship because he's not part of the crew anymore.
I love that Chopper agrees, too. He's just,
I know, right?
Yeah, let's do any extra work.
Yeah.
He's got so much attitude. He's got more attitude, I think, than any droid. I'm just going to say it. K2SO was a big, step in a very, spunky kind of droid. And,
well, the nice thing I like about him is because obviously, BB-8 and R2-D2 have a little spunk in them. But they can convey more sass through Chopper than K2SO with just his little warbles and beeps and boobs. K2SO is how did you know that wasn't me? And I don't like her very much. But you can convey all that with Chopper just be which I just love. It's so cool.
I love that he has those little arms to wave around.
Yeah, those are amazing. Which are we said before, but those were originally what originally R2-D2 was going to look like. That was Ralph McQuarrie's design for him. So Chopper looks exactly what R2-D2 was supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you put them side to side, is R2-D2 taller? Because he seems like he was kind of short.
I think they're about the same height, honestly, because in the third episode of Rebels, they meet.
Oh, and they're about the same size?
And they're about the exact same height, Chopper and R2.
Okay. I guess it's just the CGI style that they picked. For some reason, I was like, oh, he looks short. He's very short for a droid.
Droidist.
If you vamp for a second, I'm actually going to look this up because I'm interested.
What?
I'm looking up how tall R2-D2 is. All right, so R2-D2 is 1.09 meters.
Okay.
Which I don't know what that is because I'm American. And then Chopper is 0.99 meters. I still don't know what that is, but I do know that R2-D2 is in fact taller.
Wow. Well, not by much. It doesn't seem like it.
Hey, every inch counts, right?
I won't get into that.
You work with what you got, right?
Yeah. I mean, every millimeter counts, I think. Okay, so the signature modulator's still broken, but this time Lando asked Chopper to do it, so he does it. just to spite Kanan, which is dope. It's like, yeah, we'll just fly into a blockade and be unmasked and shot out of the sky because you sold our droid.
Well, if I was sold by someone, I wouldn't be too stoked about it.
Yeah.
If I was bet by someone, like, I'll bet my friend even if you were sure you were gonna win.
I wonder what the galactic laws are. Like, if I were playing poker, could I just be like, I'm out of money, but I'm gonna bet Mike. And if you don't have any, you can't object to that. Like, Chopper seems like he's a sentient droid. He doesn't have a say in that.
Droids are never sentient. Let's get that straight.
This is a very hard line for you to take.
Not in my cantina.
Only puffer pigs.
Puffer pigs are sentient.
So they creep up on the Star Destroyer Relentless, and it scans the ghost and notices it resembles a rebel ship they are looking for. But before the scan is complete, Chopper saves the day and fixes the modulator, and it appears to be the Tontine, a legitimate freighter authorized for travel to Lothal.
Yep.
But so this is, I don't know why, maybe I have just very immature taste, but I thought this was hilarious too. That the Star Destroyer is scanning the ghost and Lando keeps flirting with Sabine, which makes Ezra sweaty. And he's like, I'll show you. And he starts climbing across the puffer pig that's blocking them off. And it ends up like aggravating the puffer pig and making it blow up super puffer. And it flies Zeb into the modulator, and now Ezra's stuck against the ceiling, and then they disable it, and the Imperial ships now know it's all a ruse, and they...
Yeah, I mean, seems legit.
Yeah.
Your puffer pig blows up, Imperial ships.
Like such a weird MacGuffin, like... It's like, okay, we need something to like, for Lando to get, and we need something that's going to cause turmoil. How about a giant pig that puffs up? That smells minerals.
I was waiting for one of them to pop them at some point because they had to get through that.
I know.
It
seems like it seems like that's low hanging fruit for a joke. I can't believe that wasn't.
My God. Can you imagine? I could have easily seen that puffer pig just flying around the room making that.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so good.
I can't remember, but I'm sure that either happened in Flubber or like Daddy Daycare or a movie like that.
I'm sure.
Just shooting. So anyways, we get back to Lothal. They arrive at Lando's farm, one that he bought from Vizago, right?
Another crime lord.
A crime lord. And we learned that these puffer pigs can smell precious minerals, and that's why Lando wants them, because he wants to set up this mining operation on Lothal. And they can't be scanned by the Imperials, right? Because they are a organic being, so they can't be identified.
So we'll talk about this later in our deep dive, but because of the Imperial blockade, they outlawed like mining rigs for anyone that isn't an Imperial, because they don't want the citizens to be able to mine the minerals that are in their own land and get rich off of that. So this is a way around that Imperial decree. Yeah. So it's basically, it's like those pigs that can smell truffles, but they can just smell like ore.
I didn't even think about that.
I know.
Great.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
So as Morgan and his men show up, and this huge fight starts.
He has other debts to pay.
As Morgan?
You forget I introduced you to Vizago. I knew where you were headed.
But the ship, you couldn't have hidden it anywhere close. Did you walk here? You don't walk anywhere.
Well, I do what's necessary to claim my property, Calrissian.
Yeah, and more dialogue I love. It's like, he's like, you'd have to walk a mile to get here, and I don't see you as the walking type. Because Morgan's so pissed that he had to walk. He was like...
They even had him rubbing his feet at one point.
I know.
Like rubbing one of his feet.
Yeah. And he says, in return for his sore feet, he's gonna take. Well, what did he want? He wanted Chopper. He wanted
like everything.
Lando, Hera, and their ship because he has sore feet.
Well, I think what he said is he wanted to bury Lando.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Which I thought was pretty dark, but I like it. But so Ezra. This is the first time we see Ezra use his lightsaber for an alternative as an alternative weapon. And he says, I might not be able to sword fight. So he calls lightsaber dueling sword fighting. And he whips out his lightsaber. I probably shouldn't phrase it like that. And he uses it as a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to ask both you guys, how do you feel about a lightsaber doubling as a gun? For it or against it?
I want Tony to go first.
Oh, I'm definitely against it, especially the one he had. I thought he took out a staple gun.
Yeah.
First of all, it looks stupid, and I'll jump in before you, Pete. And I don't like that I like that there was something, how difficult, I always felt like there was something really difficult about making a lightsaber. I mean, originally those scenes that were in Empire, they got taken out where Luke is constructing his lightsaber, right? And it's this whole big ordeal, and it's difficult, and it's this process. I hate that this one kid can just, I don't know, mess with his lightsaber to the degree where it can turn into a gun.
It kind of shows how is that he has to attach a gun to his lightsaber. Wouldn't his lightsaber pretty much be all he needs? Why he's like, well, just as insurance, I'm going to have a gun on here.
Yeah.
In case someone's really far away.
Although I guess it would be cool if while you were lightsaber battling, you're also just shooting at the same time, like nonstop. Yeah. That would be deadly.
So here's why I like it. There's a couple of reasons. Right. First of all, compared to the stupid slingshot he had, anything is better.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that slingshot's gone. Secondly, I know what you mean, but I kind of like it as like a referendum on the dogma of the Jedi, where it's like blasters are so uncivilized, but like Caden's not really a Jedi. Ezra's not really a Jedi.
No.
So they're just like, why don't I make a lightsaber gun? Why the hell not? There's no Jedi Council to tell me not to do it.
That's true.
And so I like how it's kind of blurring the lines of like what a Jedi is supposed to be, right? Because they're basically like scoundrel smuggler Jedi, which is kind of a cool mix.
Yeah.
And the third reason is when I used to draw like Jedi, like Luke Skywalker and stuff when I was a kid, I always put a blaster in his other hand because I just thought it was so sick to have a blaster in one hand and a lightsaber in the other hand, or just like shooting and swinging at the same time. I thought it was so sick. So it's kind of like that.
I like the last reason, and that's why I will accept this new hypothesis.
Okay.
So as this fight is going on, the thing that saves the day is the puffer pig.
Of course.
So Zeb scares the puffer pig just by growling at it, and it blows up, and they push it with enough force that it knocks people over. And I think it is amazing that Sabine uses the puffer fish as a trampoline. Puffer pig. Blurring lines. As a trampoline to jump onto the roof. And I out loud laughed. That's for the kids, that's an LOL. I LOL'd when it squealed as she bounced off it onto a roof. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
But that proves that he's sentient then. If he squealed when he got
Yeah, good point.
We could feel that.
Yeah.
We could feel that, right? So
I also kind of wanted there to be like a blooper reel where she tries jumping on it and then her weight just pops the buffer pig and she falls on her face.
I know, it seems like a real missed opportunity. They never popped it.
I would love to have seen, like, they should have put up a volleyball net and they could have just kind of bounced them back and forth a little bit like a beach ball or something.
Every time he goes over, he's like, scream!
PETA would have some things to say about that.
Yeah. So they end up getting rid of As Morgan's guys from the power of the puffer pig, and they kick him out, and then it turns out that Lando didn't even have the money to pay the ghost crew, but he's like, you could have your droid back.
Well, he did have the money. Did you pick that up?
Yeah. Well, at the end, he said he didn't pay him.
Okay, so I'm rushing you.
Yeah.
So you know he did.
Yeah, it turns out, so in the background while this fight is going, which is a pretty cool move, Chopper steals a fuel cell because they need fuel, right? That's why they're doing this whole thing. So he just steals one of Lando's fuel cells. And then it turns out when Lando's talking to the puffer pig, because I guess that's what you do when you live alone on a farm.
You only talk to sentient beings.
Yeah. Then he says, like, of course I know that they stole the fuel cell. That's why I didn't pay them. I don't know. Debatable. I think he's just a bum. And then also when they discover that Chopper stole the fuel back on the ship, they're like, oh, you did it, Chopper. And everyone's celebrating. We both made different notes. You said Chopper raised the roof.
Well, Chopper was raising the roof.
And then I interpreted it as him showing off his guns. Like he's like, yeah, look what I did.
Oh.
Either way, it's funny.
Did you notice that,
funny,
Tony?
yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I saw him waving his arms around. I thought he was just cheering or something, but that's pretty funny that he was just showing off his guns.
Yeah.
So we have one for just cheering, one for raising the roof, and one for flexing his guns.
All right. I like that.
Possibly not all mutually exclusive.
I'll tell you the truth. Chopper also, didn't he end up shooting as Morgan also?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another thing I like is they let Chopper just shoot guns.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, in Chopper's brain or whatever he has, his chip, doesn't he say to himself, I don't even need the rest of these guys. I can just take the ghost and leave and have my own adventures.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because let's be honest, if we're going to give Chopper a personality and let him get so upset and get sassy and not obey orders because he's mad at you, what's to stop him from just shooting you or killing you in the middle of the night?
Well, I'm gonna go with it's that Will Smith movie. What's that AI movie he's in? It's called AI.
Is it called AI?
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay, AI.
I know a movie you're talking about.
Where there's 3 rules that AI can never violate. The first one being never harm a human.
Yeah, it's the Asimov rules. But first of all,
yes.
In that movie they violate it, so it's not that strict of a rule.
Yeah.
Secondly, we see droids harm humans all the time in Star Wars.
It's very real.
So, he could just go in a murderous rage.
As evidenced by As Morgan. But, if it's your owner, he's property. We've seen him sold and purchased, sold and retrieved.
Yeah.
I would love to think that Chopper is almost like that kid in that Twilight Zone episode where the people around him are so frightened of what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
What is Chopper going to do next?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I just picture him in a room by himself, staring in a mirror and doing the same thing where he's smashing his head into the mirror. So he can't take it anymore. Somebody comes out
Oh, I thought you were going with you were picturing him in a room listening to heavy metal, smashing his head against the wall, getting pumped up for stuff. Yes, a fight.
Either one's good.
I like all these iterations of Chopper.
Yeah.
All right, so the final thing we see, Lando watches the ship depart, and he tells the puffer pig that he knows Chopper stole the fuel, which is why he didn't pay the rebels, and he totally redeems himself, and he waves goodbye and believing that he shall meet again. Now, here's my final question for this episode. This is technically the first canonical appearance of Lando if you're watching this chronologically. Well, until 2018 when the Han Solo movie comes out. So this is the first time in 2017 that we are seeing Lando chronologically. So we immediately get this sense that he is a good person, that he's helping the rebels.
So I'm gonna
some character building because the end scene ties together that he's
kind of, but I feel like he came off really poorly in this episode. This episode made me not like Lando a lot. Because what does he do? So he's a gambler, which I have a very strict moral code, and I do not approve.
Okay. Do you purchase loot boxes on Battlefront 2?
I do not.
That's a form of gambling.
He sells someone he just met into slavery.
Okay.
He hits on every woman on the entire ship.
Okay.
And then he doesn't pay the crew, whether he says, quote unquote, like, I knew that they did that, so I rightfully, no, he just didn't pay the crew.
All right.
I just didn't like him.
He's 28 and he's probably hitting on a 16-year-old.
Yeah, that's true.
I have to say, I had the same, like, literally when it ended, I was like, oh, Lando's a bit of a jerk in this.
Yeah, right?
He almost seems like he doesn't even care about any of the people. He just wanted that puffer pig back on his farm. He didn't care about anyone else.
Totally.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. And he also, like, he's like, I like everything that just happened except for not killing As Morgan. He's like, he just wants to kill people, sell them into slavery. As long as he has his puffer pig, that's all he freaking cares about.
Lando does love Lando.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So that's this episode. So how we wrap up every episode is we give our overall impressions and feelings with this scale system that we've created. So we're going to put you on the spot, Tony. We're each going to give our personal scale systems. And these are totally subjective. Okay. And we go from what we think the worst thing in Star Wars is to what we think the best thing in Star Wars is. And then we rank them somewhere in there. So this is how mine works. So for me, the worst thing in Star Wars was when we found out that Anakin Skywalker created C-3PO. For me, that's bottom of the barrel crap. The best thing that's ever happened to Star Wars to me is when Luke is gazing into the twin sunsets on Tatooine while the John Williams binary sunset themes plays. It's like the most magical moment for me. So where I would put this episode appropriately, and this is a little cheap, but I'm going for it, is this ranks as about the first time we meet Lando on Best Bit on Cloud City, which I know is cheap, which roughly translates to about a B-.
All right.
Like, we meet a new character. He's not the worst thing in Star Wars, but, you know, I don't want his action figure necessarily. So for me, that's like a B- this episode.
Okay.
So, Peter.
So my scale is from Jar Jar being farted on by an Eope and going, P-Usa, to Luke and Vader having that epic duel at the end of Jedi in the Emperor's Chamber. I actually have a Lando-related grading, too. I gave this episode a Wilro Hood.
Wow.
Who, for those of you who don't know,
really high for
that's
me.
the guy who is running out of Cloud City as it crumbles with an ice cream maker. And he kind of looks like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but kind of not. I just read it because it just makes me happy. This episode made me happy. Wilro Hood makes me happy. So ice cream makes me happy.
What's that grade translation?
I'm going to say it's like a B.
Wow. Well, all right. So we're putting you on the spot, Tony, but what's the worst thing in Star Wars and the best to you?
For me, on a scale of Anakin and Padme rolling around in grass.
Fair.
And in Empire, Vader does a double take when the Falcon gets away. He's like staring out the window and like turns his head and then looks again, like in case he didn't actually, in case maybe mistaken, it was still there.
Maybe it was another Millennium Falcon.
That's amazing.
That was one of my favorite moments in Empire. Well, I mean, Empire was amazing. You know, it was the best for me, but I love that scene. But for me, this one, you guys think a little higher of it. For me, it was more of C-3PO becoming an Ewok god somewhere in there.
Oh wow,
so awesome!
That's love. That's love.
Yeah.
Kind of hokey and for laughs kind of thing, but I was thinking like a C+.
All right.
Okay, fair.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty low scene.
I remember watching it as a kid, and I remember like, oh, this is hysterical. That is very funny. Ewoks are cute. C-3PO is funny. Why not? Make him a god.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, you got anything else for this episode?
That's all my notes.
Cool.
How about you?
I'm good. You got anything, Tony?
No, I thought it was fantastic. I have to say, I've watched a couple of episodes of Rebels. I haven't watched a lot of them. Hopefully that doesn't offend you guys that I haven't watched them.
No, it's okay. We like having people on who aren't diehard Rebel heads.
I'm sure.
Gives us a cool perspective. Yeah, so I like it.
But yeah, I enjoyed it very much. It was a fun episode, and maybe I'll look for the others. I imagine the others are not as humor, sticky, I guess.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the more lighthearted, slapstick.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have a couple that are kind of stinkers, though. So be prepared.
Saving space whales.
Yep, exactly. Cool. So why don't you tell the people where you can be found online? Tell us a little more about your books.
Sure. My comics are, the alternative slice of life stuff. I started in the 90s, and I guess I'm still stuck there because I'm still doing that. That stuff, but I have a book called I have a couple of books from Top Shelf. One was called More or Less. The other one is called I don't remember.
110%.
110%. Jeez. And I have what I'd love for people to get is the Double Cross collection, which is my old mini comics that are all very funny stuff. It's also dirty. It's not for anyone, not exactly for children, but you can get it on Amazon.com, and it's called Tony Consiglio's Double Cross collection. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Cool.
I think it's fantastic. I don't know if everyone thinks it's fantastic. I did work with a guy that I gave it to him, and I never ever ask people for their opinions because I don't want to know what's going to happen, what they're going to hear. I don't really care what they say. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I had a guy, he didn't talk to me after that. He stopped talking to me. And then I was just like, what's wrong, Bob? Why aren't you talking to me? And he's just like, oh, I read your book. And I go, oh, okay.
Wow.
I don't know. Well, the funny thing was, the thing he pointed out was just too funny. Because if he told me, oh, you're terrible at writing stories, I would be all right, fine. But you know what he said? He goes, do you need to have so many darn curses in that book?
Maybe he just loves the Lord.
Yeah, it's like, get off my back.
I don't know. I never picture. I worked with him for a few years. I never thought of him as someone else that much of a prude, but that made me laugh. And I found out later it was because he didn't read the book. What happened was he gave it to his grandson.
Oh,
that's even better.
7-year-old.
Well, shame on him for not vetting.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he heard an earful, so he's just going to take it out on me, I suppose.
That's great. So if you like curses, check that book out on Amazon. And
you also have your own page on StarWarsMinute.com.
Yeah, we don't mind. Yeah, we'll plug that.
TOCO.
Yes. And which I go to almost never. I never add anything to it. But that was very nice of them to do. Yes.
Yeah.
Your own Toco page.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. If you want to see me live, I work at Whole Foods in Scottsdale. You can come find me.
Perfect.
I actually will be in Scottsdale next month, so I might come visit you and watch you live.
Definitely. I go come out from the kitchen, and you can see me in my white smock covered in blood.
Clap when I see it. Yeah, I like that.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for having me.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I had a great time.
Yeah. Thanks again. All right, Mike. We're getting deep again. Let's get deep. We're talking about the Imperial blockade of Lothal.
Don't say that again.
I'm going to say it every week. All right. So, during the Imperial occupation of Lothal, the Empire greatly restricted the rights of the planet's inhabitants. As we went over in the first episode, the planet was in economic turmoil. So the Empire implemented a couple programs. One of them is the Imperial Registration Program. I think it was also called like the Imperial Citizens Registration Act or something. So it was featured a couple months before Rebels premiered in this official tie-in blog called HoloNewsNet.com that posted all these videos from the Star Wars HoloNet, or like to take place around the time of Rebels. And in the first video posted, the Imperial broadcaster Alton Castle with a K,
Okay.
reported that Lothal had joined the Imperial Registration Program, whereby all trade had to be authorized by the Empire. So that's why we keep seeing like people getting hassled, but for selling Yogan fruit, and everyone has to get scanned when they come through, because basically the Empire is trying to crack down on rebels, and they're trying to crack down on the black market. So basically they said all trade has to go through the Empire at this point.
Is that why there's that one part in this episode where Lando comments on how many Imperials are on this planet, and Kanan kind of shrugs and goes, might have something to do with that.
Yeah. So it's also why Lando wants that puffer pig so badly, because the Empire made it illegal to have mining equipment if you're not an Imperial agent. So Lando had to get the puffer pig to mine all the resources from Lothal and then get rich. So any goods arriving or departing had to have Imperial clearance, and all ships were scanned and searched. So these regulations destroyed the local economy. They ruined farms, and local tradespeople were put out of business. So in response, the Empire implemented another program called the Galactic Farm Exchange, where the Empire promised to buy your land from the local population in order to build factories and military installations. Sometimes, as we've seen in other episodes, they also take your land by force if you don't want to, quote unquote, sell it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
Sumar,
quote unquote optional program. But the catch is, if you signed up for the Imperial Registration Program, you'd be given access to a job where you could either become a stormtrooper, enlist in the Imperial Academy.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Or work at the Sinear Fleet System Factory. I'll never be able to say that. Sinear Fleet System, Sinear.
Yeah, that I'm going to be a stormtrooper.
So they're the people who build TIE fighters. And then in return, the Empire would collect all your personal data. So you have to join their army, and then they'll also collect all your personal data. But you have a job.
Wait, so which one's the good choice?
There is none. That's why people are pissed. But if you don't have a job, you're unemployed, then, I mean, you become a stormtrooper because you need something to do, or else you're going to starve, right?
Okay.
So one of the goals of this was to cut off rebel cells and to weaken smuggling rings and the black market. But in reality, it became a lucrative opportunity for the more talented swindlers in the galaxy. So if you were talented at slipping through a blockade, you could become rich selling illegal goods. Rebels actually became so good at getting past blockades that their flagship CR-90 corvettes became known as blockade runners.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why they got their name.
So that's where it comes from.
Yep. And then for those that you don't know, the CR-90 Corvette is like kind of the main staple military vessel that the rebels use. So I wanted to ask you, because I've researched this, but how do you think the blockade works? Like in all actuality? Because why couldn't you just, when you look at this, you see there's a couple Star Destroyers in front of the planet. Why couldn't they just go to the far side of the planet and then just fly around?
Well, it's difficult because when the Phantom Menace came out, the Trade Federation had established a blockade, right? And when I was watching that...
Star Wars loves blockades. There's so many blockades in this series.
And I started thinking about that exact thing. Like, these aren't very good blockades. There seems to be miles and miles between these. And so in my head, and this is just like what I had pictured, there were some kind of shields that were linking in between ships because what they had established were so terrible. But then when Rogue One came out, and they had like the shield entrance points above Scarif, that totally changed the game for me. And what I imagined a blockade could be, and that it was maybe something like what I had imagined, that there were shields in between ships or satellites or similar to the one above Scarif, these entry ports. So perhaps that's what the blockades are?
I like that. My justification after I thought about it is Star Wars operates on established hyperspace routes. So basically there's highways.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there actually isn't a good way.
Which makes sense, because you just want to just jump into hyperspace at any point. You might smash into a flipping asteroid.
Yeah.
So that hyperspace pathways have always made sense.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's only one point of entry in and out of Lothal. So they just have to block that one point of entry, because if you're going to get to Lothal, you're going to take hyperspace. You're not going to do a hyperspace jump to the other side of Lothal because it's uncharted territory. So you have to enter at least at a certain point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And maybe like small ships can get through pretty easily, but they're more concerned about the big, like smuggling freighters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I mean, this is all speculation. I don't know.
No. I mean, it makes sense and stuff I have thought about, because I often think about hyperspace. It doesn't seem like, it seems like this alternative form of travel, but at the same time, you have to be moving through some sort of space, and there are things potentially in the way. That's why it seems like hyperspace travel seems so safe, but there has to be hyperspace travel that's dangerous.
Yeah. So there is. I actually read about this. I forgot what they're called. They have some name, but hyperspace routes have to be navigated and discovered, just like like the Old West or whatever.
Yeah.
What's
Oregon Trail?
Yep. And so
your mom died of dysentery.
Yep.
I got a snake bite. That guy got syphilis. Your dad has the measles. My mom was kidnapped by a native.
Are you done?
Your brother has hypothermia.
So there are these explorers just like Lewis and Clark. And they basically go out and navigate uncharted space. And they're the ones who go out for the first time, and they'll fly through and say, oh, you can get through here without flying through a sun. And then they'll establish a hyperspace route. So
Where
it's a
did you
huge
read
thing.
this?
Wikipedia somewhere.
I would totally read a book about that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But it's supposed to be really dangerous because it's uncharted. But
and wild space.
It's a huge thing because these planets, Lothal at one point, didn't have a hyperspace route near it. So that they were kind of by themselves and operated as a self-contained community. But then someone charted a hyperspace route to Lothal. So that's why all this new trade is coming in, and all these off-worlders are coming in and trying to exploit its riches.
Interesting.
Yep. That's my deep dive.
I like that.
I
have so many more questions that I want to ask, and I'm not going to.
You keep asking. I mean, I could just edit it down.
Well, like, okay, so I don't know. I'm not very science-minded. So if you're traveling between galaxies within this universe.
So that's an interesting thing about Star Wars, though.
Is there anything in between galaxies? Are there stars and asteroid fields? So what's in between galaxies? Is there crap in between galaxies?
There's got to be, right?
I don't know.
So here's one thing I find interesting. They do use the word universe in Star Wars, but most often, like the known world in Star Wars is referred to as the galaxy.
So there's just one? It's confusing.
I think it's probably just poor writing and poor knowledge of science, but I also feel like the Star Wars galaxy operates as one big galaxy, just a lot of different systems in that galaxy.
Okay.
So it's kind of a different setup that we're not familiar with in our space.
Sure. Because their language is called Galactic Basic.
Yeah.
That's like the
long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
All right. I don't know.
So I don't know. It just might be like neighboring planets with like asteroids and random things in between.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Pete.
Cool. So that's my deep dive. Aren't you glad we got deep?
Don't like you talking like that.
Deep.
Why would you do that? right, Peter. Well, thanks for that deep dive. This week, I would like to do a little character portrait on, but you can't guess who, Lando Calrissian.
Ah, word. That was the worst.
I do declare.
That was the worst of my bad impressions.
Well, what do we have here?
That's a good one.
You still bumming around with this old scoundrel?
Nice. That sounded great.
Williams. Okay, so Lando Calrissian. It's interesting because there actually used to be a lot on Lando Calrissian.
Mm-hmm.
And then when this, sweeping mandate of retconning all the expanded universe stuff happened, all of his books were kind of wiped out and his Legends appearances were no longer there. And so we here at Rebels, we like to stick to the canon. Mm-hmm. That being said, man, Lando does not have a lot of appearances. Rebels is the first canonical appearance for Lando. As I mentioned in the show, he will be appearing. I'm very excited to see him in 2018 in the Han Solo film.
Yeah.
Being played by Donald Glover, who I love.
He's so great.
I love Donald Glover on so many levels.
Check out Atlanta if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
It's so good.
As an actor, he's in dramas, in comedies, as a musician, as Childish Gambino. I love his records. Because of the Internet is one of my... it's seriously one of my all-time favorite records.
Preach.
I think he's freaking cool. He's also as a mental health activist, a really cool dude. He's just very open about his mental health challenges, and I don't know. I think he's an amazing person. So I'm really excited, and I think he will fit Lando well.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. But like I said, Lando isn't not in a lot of places right now. Besides the comic series that Marvel did on him a few years back, which were pretty boring. Two of the worst comics Marvel put out were probably Lando and Chewbacca for me. They were both just...
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
They were just both really bad. So besides that, he doesn't really appear too many other places. He was born on the planet Socorro. He's approximately 30 years before the Battle of the Yavin, which makes him about 26-ish in this episode. So during his youth, he became a smuggler and a gambler. Some of the only professions that exist in the Star Wars universe. And he's a proficient sabacc player. He traveled the galaxy and piloted his freighter Millennium Falcon. So Millennium Falcon is his at this point, and we know that, or not at this point in the show, but for most of his life, Millennium Falcon was his.
Wait, so were you able to uncover whether or not he was the owner of the Millennium Falcon now, or did Han already have it?
He was the Millennium Falcon owner. He was the original Millennium. I don't know about original, but he owned it before Han.
I mean, during this episode.
During this episode, I could not tell. There's no information, and I think there's no information because the Han Solo movie is going to reveal some of that, and point. So I don't think.
I'd have to imagine no, because there was no way they wouldn't show it if.
Yeah.
He had it.
Yeah. So he ends up losing the Millennium Falcon to Han Solo in a game of sabacc, one in which Han Solo cheated in, which isn't that egregious given what Lando does. So after losing the Falcon, Calrissian put it into his days as a smuggler. So I'm imagining at this point he's no longer smuggling because he does not own the Falcon, and so that's why he's getting into the mining business. And so that's one of the reasons he's not smuggling here or driving the Falcon. All the other information we have on him really exists within this episode, the comics, and then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Besides that, there's not much on him currently. So that being said, I wanted to have a quick conversation about him in Empire Strikes Back, where I think the funniest thing he does is at the end of Empire Strikes Back, we see him driving the Millennium Falcon. Han has been frozen in kryptonite. Why do I keep saying that? In carbonite. And they're going to Tatooine to save him, to rendezvous with Luke. And Lando is wearing what looks like Han's clothes. Completely wearing his clothes. Yeah. He has his vest and it's completely buttoned up. That's the only difference. And I want to know what you think about this. Is he wearing Han's clothes? Or were these his clothes that he lost to Han with the Millennium Falcon? Then he's like, well, I'm back. These are my clothes. I'm putting them back on.
I like that idea. I like the idea that Han inherited Lando's wardrobe with the Falcon.
Because that makes sense.
And then it was like, oh, cool. Now I don't have to buy any more clothes. And he just started wearing Lando's clothes. Before that, he like was into like bell bottoms and jean vests.
Yeah. My other theory is that he's sitting next to Chewie at the end of Empire, and he has to wear Han's clothes because it has Han's scent on them. And so in that, Chewie is something like a dog. You need to make him comfortable.
Huh. So in universe, I don't know this for sure, but in universe, the like red dashes on Han's pants are a specific thing from the Corellian military.
Yeah, that's the other theory behind those clothes.
But you said that Lando's not from Corellia or whatever.
No, but that doesn't mean he can't, pilot for them, because
that makes sense.
One of the other things I've heard about Han's clothes is that exactly that. It is the outfit of a Corellian pilot.
Yeah, and so, like the stripes are like his rank in the military, or like how many kills he got or something like that. It's like it signifies something. It's like if you were a vet and you just like wore camo when you got home.
But on the same side of the coin, it's like when Rey gets in the Falcon at the end of Force Awakens, she doesn't need to put on a Corellian. So I was wondering. Regardless, it's weird.
Well, I was wondering if Lando was part of the same military, and so they just coincidentally have the same uniform, and so now that Lando's going to war in Return of the Jedi, he's like, all right, I better put on my war clothes. I'll hang up the cape and put on my war clothes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he went to join the Corellian military.
I don't know.
He's not originally from there.
Yeah,
as I've noted, but I don't know. At this point, he's into mining. As we know, he gets into mining at Bespin, right?
Gas mining on Bespin.
Yeah, type
Taberna gas.
Tabana
gas.
Gas mining.
Yep.
So that's a little
cool. What I want to know, I'm not that into Lando actually as a character in general, but I find it weird that he's the one character we have no record about what happened afterwards. We generally know after Return of the Jedi. We generally know.
Interesting note on that.
Yep.
Lawrence Kasdan, who co-wrote Return of the Jedi and did some co-writing for Force Awakens, was asked in an interview about Lando and if we were going to see any more of him. And Lawrence Kasdan responded that we have not seen the last of Lando in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, pretty sure it's exactly what he said.
Interesting.
Which infers that, well, it either means that we're going to see him in this Han Solo movie, and he knew that, or that we are going to maybe be seeing him in some of the later episodic films. But Kasdan confirmed that.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what he got up to.
Yeah. So, there's a quick snapshot of Lando Calrissian. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That's all we got. Remember, you can always find us on social media by searching Rebels Pod. Email the show, rebelsrebelspod@gmail.com. Or, you know what, leave us a review on iTunes. And, if it's...
Tell us what color lightsaber you would have and how long would it be.
All right, yeah, that's a good one. If we like what you wrote on the review, we'll read it on the show.
Or when you leave a review, even better, tell us what your scale system is.
Oh, good one.
And we will present those scales on our show.
Definitely.
So cool. Please do that. And until next time, friends, be brave out there and don't look back. Don't look back.
Later.
Peace.